Our common understanding of grammar usage within the English language means that we interpret information based on the order and arrangement of words and the punctuation used in their display. In order to present information to library users, that information needs to be displayed in a way that allows the human user to interpret the information logically based on what they already understand, grammatically speaking. First, RDA gives us guidance on the application of punctuation to our description. Transcribe it as it appears. Take what you see and accept what you get. But there are exceptions. We take what we see within an element, so if there is punctuation in the title proper that is necessary for clarity, we can include it. But if there is punctuation between the title proper and other title information, we leave it out because we have our own. In this example, that colon that comes with DDC 21 is not part of the title. The resource is not called DDC 21:. Instead, we take that colon out and give it our own punctuation. It just so happens that the punctuation mark is the same, but you can see in the last line what might happen if we don't take it out. In this example, we have two potential outcomes pertaining to the ellipsis in front of Kocher. If we determine that the entire phrase, the baseball Kocher, is the title proper, we will retain the ellipsis. However, if we had determined that the baseball is the title proper, and Kocher is other title information, we would take out that ellipsis. Within the same element, we don't transcribe punctuation that simply separates multiples of the same kind of information. For example, this is a table of contents, presented by the item in hand, with spaces surrounding the double dashes. In a standard table of contents for a book, where a single author is responsible for every chapter, we would typically use a semicolon surrounded by spaces instead. We remove the punctuation as it is presented and replace it with our own. That way, no matter how a table of contents is arranged stylistically by the item in hand, we display it consistently in our library catalog for our human users so that no matter what bibliographic record they see, they recognize these as chapter titles in a book. And then we are allowed to add punctuation where it is needed to help users interpret the information, grammatically speaking. We've seen this so far when adding commas before and after the word or when a title has an alternative title. We also refer to Appendix D in RDA, which refers us to International Standard Bibliographic Description punctuation. ISBD is long, but for this purpose you only need pages 14 through 16. This is available in the Handouts and Tutorials page of this module, along with a simplified cheat sheet and a list of examples in practice. Be sure to check them out. The important thing to note is that the punctuation it tells us to use is intended to precede the next bit of data, not follow the bit before it. And then, the Library of Congress and Program for Cooperative Cataloging tell us to add angle brackets for some information, and RDA goes on to tell us to use square brackets for the things we find elsewhere and add ourselves. The angle brackets are common for periodicals which have yet to cease publication. In that case, the angle brackets may represent the current years of publication, but indicate that new issues continue to be produced. They're also common for series, when the final number of volumes is yet to be determined or published. The square brackets tell us that the information between them was found somewhere besides the preferred sources of information. And then, the Library of Congress and Program for Cooperative Cataloging have prescribed some particulars for input into the MARC framework. More information can be found in the original RDA toolkit under the LC-PCC Policy Statement 1.7.1. I want to pause to tell you, If we had been in person this week, I would have brought donuts. Square Donuts, a local chain, makes the best donuts for punctuation. But back to the topic at hand. These new guidelines were introduced in January of last year and allow for not applying some punctuation. There is a link to this in the readings list for this week, if you'd like to read the whole thing. Know that, for our class policy, we will not follow these guidelines for assignments, but it will be important to know that it is happening, so that if you encounter it, you'll know why. Also, it could be the end of Donut Day in cataloging class.